Good morning and welcome to the OK Grognard Show. Today is Monday, April 27th, 2020. It's 10:30 a.m. Central Time in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Today is a day for campaign and world building discussion is what I have this slated for. We do cartography sometimes on Mondays as well, but today we're going to focus on the other side of that, mainly the world building in regard to how it relates to setting up for a campaign. So I'm currently working on a rather big project. I've spoken before about the Dragon's Teeth, which is a series of towers that cross moors that exist kind of centralized in a split kingdom. They divide the kingdom in two, and although the kingdom does manage to connect at the north end of the moors, there's literally hundreds of square miles of these moors at one time in ancient times for this game world. Dwarves that were creating passage to the north from the south needed to cross these moors. It was back then, before the kingdom existed. The wilderlands on either side of the moors were actually worse. Heavily forested, tough to move with any speed, tough to get any kind of visuals, and not as much stone, which is what attracted the dwarves to the moors themselves. The great stone tors that punctuated the moors created locations whereby the dwarves could set up a series of way stations built upon or cut into these great stony tors. They set up a series of 7 towers from south to north, which in contemporary times for the campaign have come to be known as the Dragon's Teeth. These towers acted as a series of way stations for the dwarves in ancient times to travel from the south to the north, being roughly a day's march apart. They were way stations, they were garrisoned, they had shrines, they acted as villages in a sense, although more like fortresses, and protected travelers from creatures and other dangers that were out in the wilderness, particularly on the moors. And I used these Dragon's Teeth for a couple of campaigns, which were quite different from one another. Let's turn that on. There we go. The campaigns were run, actually 1, 2, 3, 4 different campaigns. One was kind of short-lived though. But I've run using this setting with originally 2nd edition rules, and then 3.5. I ran a campaign using 5th edition rules, and I've run a campaign using first edition rules. All D&D campaigns. So they've been considerably different from one another. The overall concept was the same, because essentially, in contemporary times for the campaign, these towers act now, since there was a kingdom surrounding the moors, as spots on the moors where creatures now inhabit them. Creatures, various evils, so that they become places for adventure for player characters. It's true that in the most recent campaign, the idea became to consider them as, when developing them and what would be in them and what purpose they would serve within the campaign, the idea was to think of it, the whole moors and all the towers thereon, as a sort of an open-air mega dungeon, if you will, where traveling between them would be like going from level to level, the outermost two being the easier levels, getting tougher as you move to the 6th and the 2nd, and then the 3rd and the 5th, and of course the 4th being the center one, being the sort of toughest level, if you will. And you can imagine a mega dungeon that's set up with different levels and different split levels. If there were two first levels that weren't directly connected or were only loosely connected, 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and then finally a single 4th level that is the toughest level. And if there were areas all around each level that were less defined, so each tower acting as a sort of a central event or layer set upon its given level, with the moors being all of the surrounding sort of wandering monster areas, open areas, areas that had been previously cleared but re-inhabited, constantly in flux. So it works the same as a 4-level mega dungeon because of its expansiveness. But I found with the final campaign, with the first edition campaign, that my expectations of what I could do with the moors and with the initial towers was asking a bit more than even what a large group, 8, 9, 10 players even at one point, each with their own player character, and what they could do with in terms of lethality. So it's okay to make things tough, but you want to have a reason for them to get out of bed in the first place, right? If all they have the potential for is death, and it's obvious that there is nothing more than that in the offing, then you can't expect the hook to get set. So what I had to do was create a sort of a half level before those initial levels, and create a small series of training levels. something to allow the characters to advance to second and even third level in some cases before they could tackle the initial towers, initial levels. So, in a sense, I expanded it even further. If you were to divide it up into a series of adventures, which by default game sessions become that, I guess, you'd have to look at it as a first edition campaign set up with multiple game sessions devoted to an adventure that could take them from first to third, followed by another series of sessions devoted to an adventure that could take characters from third to fourth, and then another fourth to fifth, another sixth to seventh. And that's pretty much where we left the campaign. There were a couple of characters that were just getting up to or close to 8th level. I think most were 7th. Maybe only one was one of 8, which we wound up with at the end, was still 6th level. There was a split level character. That's what it was. And so what we had was a one character who was 6th as a split dual class character. Multi-class, rather. But in the end, the campaign, I think, was pretty successful. There was some character loss early on. There was a little bit of character loss along the way, but because they had aligned themselves with the largest temple in the kingdom and were heavily tithing and giving the temple first dibs on any discoveries that they had, and feeding them information, and essentially clearing the way for the temple to take over this real estate, these towers, and refurbish them as towers owned by the temple. The temple was more than happy to provide them with higher level magics on the odd occasion when somebody went down below 0 and wasn't able to be brought back fast enough. And yeah, we do use the no permanent death until you bleed out at 10 under. You can bind wounds and bring someone back up, and then they have to go and convalesce for a period of time. So there were plenty of periods in the campaign which lasted for a year and 2 or 3 months. Within the game, playing time within the game was roughly about the same, maybe a little longer. Yeah, it was a little longer. There was a lot of convalescing for a couple of those characters. When we started, the idea was that each player would have a stable of characters, but because we were missing sessions, especially early on when the weather was just not cooperating on the particular day of the week which we had set up for gaming, I think in the first 3 months we played about once a month, with the idea that we were scheduling weekly, figuring we'd miss 1 or 2 each month. But when we actually missed, 3, 4 in some cases weeks in a row, mostly due to weather early on in the campaign, it was almost devastating. Fortunately, we got back on track once we got out of the winter of 2019, and then we were able to move forward, play a bit more often, adjust that camera a little bit. Play a little more often, and also get the characters advanced, which was one of the more important points to keeping the campaign going. Nobody wants to play for half a year and still have first level characters. Or do they? I guess it's true that there are certain campaigns I've played in where that's been the case. And really, if you're having fun, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference. But this was the kind of group and campaign that needed regular progression to keep it spicy, keep it interesting, keep them coming back to the table, and giving up their precious time. That may be, and here's a campaign consideration, that may be a aspect of having a group of older gamers, is that the time that you put aside for gaming becomes so precious because you have so many other commitments in your life, whether it's kids or even grandkids, working full time, maybe you have side jobs, maybe because you're part of a family you have other commitments, whether it's even if it's just shuttling people around for all their for all of their activities and hobbies. I mean, nobody likes to think of themselves as a chauffeur, but there are periods in your life, if you have children, when a lot of what you'll be doing is just getting them from place to place, activity to activity. And that cuts away into time. If you know that 5 nights a week you're going to be coming home from a 9 to 5 job only to be shoveling food into everyone's faces and then driving them around from place to place, getting them to this activity or the other. Sure, you might have some time in the middle of that when they're at the activity that you're free, but that doesn't it's not conducive to getting involved in a regular RPG game. So, thinking about it from that respect, it was pretty wonderful being able to have a campaign with that many players for over a year and have them advance from first level on up through 7th level on average. It's possible that once we get to the other side of this health crisis, we'll get back and rejuvenate that campaign with the characters at those levels and move on to something else. I have a few things available for them to play should we get to that point. But currently we're exploring some online options, and that brings us up to present day because we've just started a campaign on Roll20 using a Discord chat, voice chat component. So we just started this campaign that allows us to forgive me, a little sneeze there. I guess I should have moved over to this screen. Sorry about that. Okay. Once again, I apologize. Ah, heavy. Heavy sneezing there. A good series of sneezes. I love Australia. If you're watching this from Australia, this is from my buddy Heath from Adelaide. Sent that. Wow, they're going to keep creeping up on me, huh? Okay. Better keep a finger ready on the cough button, as we used to call it in radio. I guess we're going to call it the sneeze button. Excuse me one more minute. Well, we're getting there. Well, it's, I don't know, 7, 8, I think now. 9, okay. If we're keeping track. Sadly, it's the software I have that can be used to edit this recording after the fact is pretty demanding on the resources, which is to say, editing large videos is very difficult for my system. So, we're just going to have a large chunk in the middle of this video that it's just me fumbling with the cough button while I sneeze. I know one of them got through, and I apologize. But I think we're at 12 now. That's not a Guinness record, but it's quite a few. Kind of proud. Baker's dozen now. Gorgio's popped into the chat there. Thanks for stopping. You caught me in a series of sneezes, for which I am only pausing the audio portion of the video. I've been talking about campaign and world building discussion. Do you have a Discord set up? And Gorgio, do you have an account over on Discord? Yeah, no? I passed it up north to you. I had them this morning. Oh, the sneezing. The sneezing problem, huh? Yeah, gotcha. Here's a link over to the OK Grognard Show Discord server if you care to join me over there. Okay. So how do you like that technical difficulty screen? Alrighty. So what are you saying, Gorgio? You want to jump in on the voice chat here? We can talk about your channel a little bit. You can give us the rundown on what you've got going over on yours. You set up for a mic? No mic capabilities at this point? Okay. Well, it was just a thought. Gorgio regular runs D&D games on his own channel. I've sat in and watched a few of them. They're definitely fun affairs. Sometimes it's nice to get some campaign discussion. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Gorgio's out and about catching us on a phone. He doesn't have the full capabilities to sit and jump in on the discussion. That's okay. Some future cross stream we can do a blow by blow campaign comparison. See how that goes. We'll set that up somewhere down the line, perhaps. We can just commiserate on our various campaigns, where they're going, and what the players are doing to destroy them. I always joke that way, but the truth is that's part of what makes it fun for a DM is when the players take a left turn, do something a little different, unexpected, keep us on our toes. Well, sorry, buddy. I'm afraid you kind of came in on the tail end of my half hour this morning. Tomorrow we'll be doing a little board gaming, and we do that on Tuesdays and on Fridays with some of the local Lake Geneva gamers. And Wednesday's campaign discussion. Hopefully I'll be able to get my game up and running tomorrow. I'm not sure if it's ready for broadcast, though. We're only going into our second session, and there's a lot of fumbling around with Roll20 still, and getting used to the interface, and getting face-to-face gamers used to playing online. But we'll have some talk about that on Wednesday after the Tuesday night session, whether the Tuesday night session is broadcast or not. On Saturdays, of course, we review we take a look at a cartoon, a nostalgic cartoon look from a DM's perspective, and do a sort of running review. We'll be looking at the 6th episode of the animated D&D series this Saturday. Join us for that. Still working on the Thursday readings. More on that this Thursday, because I plan to actually spend time on Twitch discussing that process, how it's been going, where's it at. And of course, every Sunday we do a drawing a weekly drawing this week for a set of dice, and currently in Gorgio, you, sir, are in on it. Because, as I've let people know, the only thing you have to do is follow the channel. Follow the channel and speak up at some point during a live stream in the chat. And if you do that, you're automatically added into the drawing. Next year, you'll be in the area for GaryCon. Excellent. Oh, St. Louis. Wonderful. Gateway to the West. Very sweet. And these dice, if you're the lucky winner, are yours to choose from what's available. I think right now we still have charcoal and gray left. I'm afraid red, emerald, purple, and blue have all been chosen already. But once they reopen the area down by the Riviera where the Gygax Memorial Stone is, I'll be taking all of the sets of dice down there and rolling them on the stone and getting those dice blessed before sending them off to the lucky winners. I appreciate everyone having some patience while they finish up the construction over there. But it'll be nice to have them, to have a picture taken on the stone, and to be able to say that the dice you have are blessed in Lake Geneva on the Memorial Stone. 99 sets already in Gorgio. Very good. It's good to round it out then with the 100th set if you're lucky enough to win. We'll collect all the names this week, Sunday through Saturday. If anybody who pops into the chat that's also a follower, put their name in the drawing. We'll randomly select from those names one lucky winner, and I'll contact them Saturday night or Sunday morning to let them know and give them the option of choosing from the available sets. Well, that pretty much wraps it up for today. I want to thank everybody who gives this a listen on YouTube. My apologies again for the sneezing fit. Such is the dangers of live broadcasting. The OK Grognard Show, warts and all. Thank you very much. Have a good day, good gaming to you.